Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. 5 issues Ole Gunnar Solskjaer must solve at Manchester United if he wants them to have a successful season. And I tell you what, it doesn't involve transfers because I could solve that very easily. Bruno Fernandes and another 4 midfielders and maybe a couple of attackers and we're fine. But the transfer window's shut and we are what we are and we go with what we've got and we're fed up of saying that. But there are 5 things that I believe, and I think a lot of you will believe, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs to solve very, very quickly at Manchester United. The first thing I'm going to say is corners, set pieces. We've spent £80 million on Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire is statistically and obviously one of the best players in the league at getting on the end of a high ball. We saw it at Leicester, we've seen it for England. He's brilliant at it. And whether it is, alright, he's not going to score off everyone, but he can win it. He can keep it alive in the box. But the only way he's going to be able to do that is if you deliver a decent ball. And Marcus Rashford blasting a cross in like a shot, or Luke Shaw, Juan Mata and everybody else hanging it up like a balloon, it ain't good. The only person we've got who's decent at delivering a proper cross, and when I say a proper cross, I'm talking crosses like Beckham, crosses like Trent Alexander-Arnold, these crosses that whip in, a proper set-piece taker. On FIFA and Football Manager and everything like that, set-piece taker actually has a score because it's a skill. And we don't have enough players in that team who can do it. People think Mata can do it. He's never been good at it. He whips it in a sort of hanging up balloon way. Pereira is the only player we've got who can do it, but you probably can't start Pereira. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs to find a way for set pieces to work. And I actually think, although he's tall, Paul Pogba's probably the best player to do it because he's got the best delivery. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs to stop with Rashford and Luke Shaw and Juan Mata taking corners and set pieces because they don't put the right delivery in. We're hanging the ball up. When you hang the ball up, there's no power for Maguire to get on it. If you get the right cross, you think about corners or set pieces where somebody scores a header from it, they're using the pace and delivery of the cross to put it in the box. If you hang it up in the air, you've got to get all the power and pace on it from your neck muscles. And we're not going to get the best out of Harry Maguire doing that. So that is very important. And to be honest with you, it's not just an Ollie problem. We know it. We used to say, if it's a corner for United, just give him a goal kick because we'll waste it. And we've got a player now that's a big, big threat in the penalty box. But we've got to get somebody who can put the ball into the box. And that, to me, is on the training ground. These people are paid a lot of money. You're telling me you can't get somebody to put a decent cross into the box. Massively important that we do that. Point 2, and a lot of people won't be surprised about this one, it's that number 10 position. It's very important. If we are going to play the 4-2-3-1, then you're going to have somebody playing in that 3 that's central and is a creator. The wide players will create, they'll run, they'll create the space. The number 9 up front is there to score the goals. The 2 midfielders behind them shield the defence and move the ball from back to front quickly. That central player has got to create the chances. Jesse Lingard either has to find the ability to create and score goals, which he hasn't done this year, or you've got to find somebody to do that role. Whether it's Angel Gomez, there's pros and cons. I'd like to see him do the role because I think he's a creator and I think he's a goal scorer. But physically, is he going to run around all game like Jesse does and be part of that high intensity press? And I think that may be an issue. But if you're going to get Jesse Lingard to do that because he runs around a lot and he's very good at that, he's got to deliver goals and he's got to deliver assists. Has he got that in his locker? Point 2 here, of point 2, and this number 10 situation is, this is the position we should have bought a player in. There were options out there to go and do it, and we didn't do it. And everyone will say Bruno Fernandes, but there were other players you could have got to get that. We could have gone for a Tielemans. We could have gone for other players in that position. We didn't do it, and we've got what we've got. And he's got to get the best out of what he's got, because we can be a very good team. And that first half against Wolves, we were a very good possession team. We were very well structured. We didn't concede any chances, but we didn't create enough chances. And that has to come from a magician in that number 10 role. So Ollie's got to find a number 10 to play that role. I don't think it's Mata. I don't think he's got the legs. And I don't think it's Lingard at the moment because he hasn't got the creativity in him. So maybe you change the formation. Maybe you go back to the 4-3-3 that we used in the first 3 months. And if you do that, you have McTominay sitting. Maybe you play Pereira and Pogba to get forward. Your 2 wide players and your number 9. And it's down to Pogba and Pereira to be the creators as well as the box-to-box players. Maybe that's the solution. Maybe the 4-2-3-1 doesn't work if the number 10 isn't a creator. But that is something that Ollie needs to figure out very, very quickly because we didn't get enough from Lingard on Monday night. And we haven't, it's not just a one game thing. Lingard's got no goals and no assists in 2019. And for what Lingard's all about, he can't just be about running. So I'd rather see Jesse on the right hand side and a number 10 brought in there if we're going to play a 4-2-3-1. Even if it's Mata, but I don't think Mata's up to it. Point 3 sort of follows on from point 2, youth. He's got to use the youth. Like, if Sanchez is going to go, Lukaku has gone. We didn't buy in the transfer window in the midfield or the attack. You got to use the youth. Like, Ollie himself said, you talk about Martial and Rashford's finishing. They've got a long way to go to catch up with Mason Greenwood, but then you're bringing him on for 2 minutes. You talk Mason Greenwood up. He's ready. He's going to play a lot of games. Use him. The season started. It's not pre-season anymore. Get him on. I thought Rashford against Wolves had run out of ideas. Maybe Martial. Maybe try something a little bit different. But you've got to start using these young players. We mentioned Angel Gomez there. Not been on the bench yet. We've seen Tahith Chong. Look, maybe he is being held back. Maybe it's right. But Mason Greenwood, get him on the pitch. Get him involved. Look, you're not going to lose anything by doing it. You're not going to lose fan support. I actually think that well over 90% of United fans are well behind Ollie using the youth players. And they're not there to be bubble wrapped. They're not Daniel Sturridge. They're there to be used. And the squad is thin if you don't use them. Like, if you're not going to use Greenwood and Gomez and Chong, we've got a really, really thin squad. Use them. And I know it's only the second game, and I agree with that. But we're talking about 5 things he needs to do this season with what he's got. And those players are really important. And I think Scott McTominay comes into that equation. And I think Daniel James comes into that equation because they're young, inexperienced players. I don't want to see McTominay after one bad game moving out of the team for Matic. He did have a bad game, but let's use him. Let's do this rebuild. Let's do it. And you know what? If we finish 7th and it hits next May and we go, look, Gomez had loads of chances, he wasn't good enough. Chong had loads of chances, he wasn't good enough. McTominay had loads of chances, he wasn't good enough. You make that decision next summer and you go, look, maybe they need selling to Charlton. I need to bring new players in. But let's get it. Let's do it. Let's do it, because I don't think you're going to lose anything by doing it. I think you'll actually gain a lot. I think people will be excited and they will give them the patience. And we know the situation. So use the youth. I know it's only game 2, but I think it's very important that we do it. And that leads into point 4, subs. We saw it against Wolves, but we saw it a lot last season. I've heard a lot of people say this about Ollie. You have got to make your subs a little bit quicker. Like that game, Wolves made a change at half-time, bringing on Adama Traore, and it worked. It changed the game. We didn't make our first substitution until the 80th minute, but we'd been 1-1 for about half an hour. We've got to be quicker with our substitutions. You've got to be proactive and not reactive. And sometimes I think he's sort of not even being reactive. He's waiting too long. That bench has got players on it. You've got to use them. And I think United against Wolves and some games last season as well waited too long to make changes. You know, if you wait till the 80th minute to make a change that you could have made on the 70th or the 60th minute, that's 10-20 minutes extra for that change to come into effect. And I don't want to focus on the Wolves game too much, but this is sort of a follow-on from last season. I think you look at that Wolves game last season, you look at it this season, there's not a lot of difference apart from the defensive display. We didn't create the chances. We didn't hurt Wolves enough. So I think that an attacking substitution would have been much, much better if we'd done it around the 60, 70 minute mark. We waited till the 80th minute mark. And like a lot of people were pretty universal in the fact that Ollie's substitutions were too late. And I don't want a manager to be like that. I don't want a manager to be too slow on their subs. I want a brave manager. I want a proactive manager. And I want Ollie to be that. So I think that, yes, substitutions need to be happening a lot quicker than they did. Decisions need to be made a lot quicker than they did. I mean, look, I don't want to dwell on the penalty thing, but you can't have 2 players on the pitch and you don't know who the designated penalty taker is. Oh, just go on the pitch and see how you feel on the day. That's not leadership. That's not management. That's not decision making. That's leaving it to your players. Your players are there to be moulded. Your players are there to be told to what to do. You be the manager. You make the decision. You say, well, you scored last week, you're taking the penalty. Or are you not confident enough to do it? Marcus Rashford, what are you going to do? I'll take the penalty. Yeah, you're taking the penalty. If he says to me, I don't feel confident, boss. Right, Pogba, you're the penalty taker today. Not decision on the pitch. No. You're the manager of Manchester United. You make those decisions. And you're the manager of Manchester United. get your substitutions done a little bit quicker, and I think it will help us a lot. We've got some talented players on that bench, and we've got some really talented players who aren't even on the bench yet. You think about Delo, you talk about Fred, you talk about Gomez, you talk about Chong. These lads are not even involved yet. If you've got to use the bench, because if those players on the bench aren't good enough, then the next layer can come on the bench and have a go as well. But you can't just keep relying on that first 11. That's not a rebuild. That is exhaustion, and you're going to burn your players out. You've got to be clever, and I think that we've got to be quicker with our substitutions. Point 5 is leadership. Leadership is really important at Manchester United. We don't have enough leaders on that pitch. I think Harry Maguire will be a leader, but I think apart from that, that team lacks leadership. Paul Pogba's not a leader on the pitch. Lingard's not a leader. Rashford, Martial, these are players that need to be led. They're very good players, but they need to be led. When the going's good, they're fine. When the going gets tough, there's no leader. United need a leader. Where are you going to get a leader from when the transfer window's closed? You're not. Harry Maguire is very new. I think he will become a leader of the squad, but it's probably early days. We need our leadership from the bench. We need our leadership from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I don't want to see a manager on the touchline shouting orders and doing this, that and the other just because the cameras are watching, but I think United need that. When you haven't got a leader on the pitch, and you think back to the days of Sir Alex Ferguson, you think about Pep, you think about Klopp, you think about Pochettino to a certain extent, these are managers that in the current day are on the touchline shouting orders, getting their players pumped up. And I don't see enough of that. And it doesn't have to always be Ollie. It can be Mike Phelan. It can be Carrick, whatever. We don't have a leader on the pitch. Standing on the touchline when you're losing the momentum of a game like this, that's fine if you've got leaders on the pitch. But we haven't. We need to see some leadership from that bench. And we need to see some animation from that bench. And whether that's going to be substitutions because you're pissed off and you want to change it, or whether that's going to be you getting your orders across onto the pitch, we need to see it. I think we drift through games. I don't want to drift through this season. I think we drifted through the last 3 months of last season. I don't want to drift through this season. And I felt, again, we only had 2 games. It's very early days, but I think the reason people are talking about these things is because that Wolves game was quite similar to the Wolves game in March, where we were drifting towards the end of the season. I don't want to see us drifting, and I think in that second half against Wolves, we were drifting a bit. We were rudderless. We were a boat in a lake with the current taking us away from the 3 points, and what it needed was mast up, get a sail up. Let's get paddling. We're going back for the 3 points. And I think we let that game drift a bit. Apart from the Pogba penalties creation, what did we really do? We can't drift. We need some leadership. And if it's not going to come from the pitch, it's got to come from the bench. And whether that's changes, personnel, or whether that's a little bit of on the touchline, get it. Because people will react to that. Players will react to that. Fans will definitely react to that. The fans can have a part in this, but we need to be entertained. We need to be entertained, and we need to see that drive. And like I say, when the going gets good for United, it's great. But when the hurdle comes, we've got to get ourselves up. You know, when you fall from a hurdle, you've got to pick yourself up and go again. Yeah, it might hurt a bit, but you get up and you go again. And that's what United need to do. And they're the 5 things I think United really need to resolve, and Ollie needs to solve. So realistically, corners, set pieces, come on, let's sort it out. Let's get someone who can put a decent cross into the box. You've got Harry Maguire in there. Let's not waste that threat, to be honest with you. Second thing, youth. Let's get the youth. Let's get it moving. Let's give it a chance. That's all we're saying, is give youth a chance. And I think, you know, it's an easy win because people are going to back them. People are going to be patient with them. And this is a season where we've got to be patient. Number 10 position, if we're going to play the 4-2-3-1, that central of the 3 is the number 10 they've got to create. If it's going to be Lingard, he's got to start creating and scoring goals. Otherwise, you've got to move him out. It's great that he runs around. It's great that he's got intensity. But that number 10's got to create. You've got to create chances. They've got to be a magician. And that's if we're going to play a 4-2-3-1, you've got to do it. And I would probably go with Gomez, going back to the youth point there. Point 4, substitutions. Come on, you know, let's not be letting a game drift. Like I say, let's get those substitutions done. It can change a game. Subs win prizes. Subs change games. And you know, giving people 2 minutes at the end of a game, what's that all about? It's like a testimonial. Get them on the pitch, get it changed when the game's drifting. And the final point, leadership. We need some leadership, and if we're not going to get leadership from those players, then it's got to come from the bench. And that can be substitutions, it can be tactical changes, or it can be as simple as just getting on that touchline and giving the team a bit, like Sir Alex used to, like Klopp does. Let's get a bit of animation, because we're great when things are going well, but when things are going bad, let's get a bit of animation. Let's get a bit of determination. Let's get up for it. Let's fight for let's fight for it. There's a lot of good talk coming out of United, and there's a lot of positive things, but there are always areas for improvement. And they're not massive things. They're all things that can be changed. And we've got Palace, we've got Southampton, we've got Leicester, West Ham. Let's go into those games. Let's get those points. They're there to be got. Let's grab them. Let's grab those points. Let's start going up a gear, and let's start trying to fight for that top 4 position, because no one fancies us. No one expects us to do it. But we as United fans, we think we can do it. So let's go and do it. Let's iron out the wrinkles. Let's keep building this new platform, and let's go for it. These things can be done. But let's not drift. Let's not be here in 2 months going and say, look, we still can't put a cross in the box. We're still leaderless. We're still not using the youth. We're not making our substitutions quick enough. You know, we're not creating chances. Let's not do that. Let's rectify these issues now. And I'm sure Ollie will. Thanks everyone for watching. What else do you think we need to improve on? Or do you think we're all right? Get your comments in below. Thanks for watching. Smash a like. I'll see you soon.